two of them, they are on the task force to really examine our ordination standard. And that's something coming to our General Assembly this year. And I am just so grateful they're willing to talk ahead of that. And we learned this is a task force. So um, a lot more freedom to really go places. And yet there's some restriction as far as they can't really just make things happen. So there's still some discernment for the greater body, right? And so before we get started, Juan and Deborah, would you like to just kind of introduce yourself better than I did, and we'll go from there. Juan?
Sure. Well, I'm Juan Sarmiento, and uh, among many Juans in our denomination. Hopefully, we want to have more, right? But I'm the
Absolutely.
guy. I'm the someone that probably did not anticipate becoming a mid-council leader, right? Hey, for all purposes, I didn't grow up Presbyterian, right? And and also, saw this task force being formed at the kind of a presbytery's level in terms of kind of the idea, the overture. But I nominated everyone else, a lot of good people in our presbytery that who have done tremendous work. But I ended up being the co-chair with Deborah, and it's been a very rich and hopeful experience.
Awesome. Deborah?
I am Deborah Boucher-Payne. I am the Synod Executive in the Synod of Mid-America, and it has just been such a great joy to be a co-moderator of this task force along with Juan, and just the breadth of gifts and backgrounds and experiences of our other task force members has really enriched the journey that we've been on together as we have come to this particular point in preparation for the upcoming General Assembly.
Awesome. So let me start by asking, why do you think at this time in our denomination's life that we are re-examining our ordination standard?
I think part of the impetus has been, and it's clear in the text of the tasks that we were assigned, the charge of the task force, was the development of new worshiping communities, right? Traditionally, Presbyterians have been about the work of starting new churches. Some people say that's why the name First Presbyterian is often the case because there's the hope, there's the joy of being in a new place, and there's the hope that there will be more, right? In any given location, the work of new church development that develop into new worshiping communities with a lot of dynamics and energy and. I think that has been kind of the impetus, seeing people that were not, say, the Presbyterian demographic coming to be part of this family in our circles, along with the our commitment to developing leaders. I mean, I tend to, as I try to explain this Presbyterian thing to others, I tell people that we are the only denominational family in Christendom or in Christianity that has leadership development embedded into our name. I mean, we're Presbyterians. We're people that believe that the Spirit is calling and equipping new people to roles of leadership in governance, and that's I think what's behind the discernment of the General Assembly to begin this task force.
I also think, in addition to that, is we are experiencing across the country, in various parts of the country more than others, but there is just a general searching for better ways for congregations to have pastoral leadership. Many presbyteries are experiencing call searches in which they are not yielding very many matches for their congregations, and or people not interested in moving to certain parts of the country. And we're just seeing in general, for example, teaching elders where they used to maybe 30 years ago would come out of seminary and be willing to move anywhere for their first call. We are seeing, as we've talked with Cody and different seminary representatives, that people are not even moving as much for various reasons. And so that means that we've got to come up with new alternatives for helping our congregations find pastoral leadership. And that means also exploring options and opportunities beyond our current model.
Thank you, Deborah. I really love what you just said because as big council leader, many of us don't have as many New Ocean communities. However, we do have many small congregations, and that is a real struggle, right? Um, just also something to celebrate. Juan, you and I talked recently about New Ocean Community, and so please share with us how many New Ocean Community does San Fernando Presbytery have right now?
Well, we are very fortunate to have 51 active new worshiping
People,
communities.
51. Can you imagine
That's more churches
51?
than I have.
Exactly, exactly. So I mean, we should all just take a moment just even to celebrate that. That
Yeah.
is so exciting. And I love the vision of creating that. But we do have the other side where the smaller church, that is also a reality. So I'm really excited for your work and to kind of see how this might help us adjust and adapt in this new day because it is challenging. So, I wonder what would be like one single issue that's like the hottest issue for the task force to tackle? And you might all have different things, but is there one that you're just like, oh gosh, this one is gonna be, yeah, controversial or maybe harder? Was there one single
I
thing or
think
many?
so. Let me tell you, uh, we feel that this is the natural outflow of how things have developed. We are the always reforming according to God's word, and we are seeing that these are natural expressions of how presbyteries have had to creatively come up with kind of duct tape solutions to these wonderful things emerging and these pressing needs as well. And so we see we in the task force we saw a role as listening, hearing some of those things, and so perhaps Deborah can mention something about the exciting portfolio proposal, and that is one that we discern and we realize it's somehow different that the pattern, but alongside with the alternative examination practices that we have seen around the church.
Yes, in fact, at the last General Assembly, our task force was given the additional charge to include in our final report recommendations regarding best practices around ordination requirements, and that we were specifically asked to talk with newly ordained pastors and seminarians for their input on the preparation process. And so in doing so, we held a lot of focus groups. We did a McCouncil survey. We've talked with Cody, denominational leaders, etc. And out of that has emerged our recommendation to have an alternate method of examination to determine readiness for ministry, which is what called a senior portfolio model. So we would still do the senior ordination exams as we currently do them. We're not recommending changes to those, although we did make some recommendations like to pay attention to be more culturally sensitive and those kinds of things. But this portfolio model is a new opportunity for presbyteries. Again, they have the choice. We left a lot of flexibility in our recommendations for the leadership, the wisdom, the Spirit's guidance with our presbyteries, of course. And so presbyteries would work with their candidates and determine, based on their knowledge of their candidates, which method would be best to determine readiness for ministry, going this traditional senior ordination exam route or this portfolio model that covers the same topics, but allows for more flexibility for the candidate, especially those whose first language is not English, or there are cultural or learning for even learning reasons, learning challenges that some people just don't take tests well. But the presbytery knows this person's really gifted for ministry. And so then how do we accommodate that? And this portfolio model allows that flexibility.
That's
Can you talk
great.
about a little bit like what is a portfolio, like what is this portfolio model?
So the portfolio model is, and actually this is used in some other professional organizations, and where they would take a topic, say exegesis, for example. They still have to demonstrate competence in exegetical preparation. So they could create their own exegetical product and in consultation with their presbytery. And it could be even using a project that they did in seminary, for example, that then would become part of this portfolio. Portfolio is kind of like you have different chapters of a book. So there's each of this polity, exegesis, worship, etc. They still have to demonstrate competency in these areas, but they can use various ways of doing that. They can write a paper, they can use a project they did in seminary, etc. It's all put together, it's evaluated by the presbytery to see if it really does show competency in those areas. And then the idea is that then it would go to the national office, to the group that already is responsible for the senior ordination exams, and that there would be set up a national level of evaluation of those, just as there is for the traditional exams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally does. Because I think as a process, you always wonder where is the standard,
Yeah.
right? And because I love what you say, it's just not at the presbytery level, because if we leave it completely to the local governing body, then you have this mixture of some will be much more relaxed about the standards,
Right.
some's gonna be have that heightened standard. And so that leaves that inconsistency. But the way you describe it, it's like, okay, that still need to go somewhere. It's where then it will be measured right across
Yeah.
the board. So every presbytery will still, need to present their best, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's a really good alternative for people. Like you said, not everybody's good at taking tests. And I'm actually newly ordained, right? I got ordained in 23. So I'm really new. And I just remembered in talking to different people, some of them have just spent years in preparation for those oral
Yeah.
exams. And some would just take it over and over and over. And to a point, it's like, well, they're so ready. They have such a passion wanting to do this, but because that, they're just kind of held back. So
Right.
so to create that opportunity, I think that will be really welcomed by many people and by many. So
And one
that
of the things we're hoping is that that then expedites the pathway to pastoral leaders for congregations, because as you said, there are really good candidates for ministry who just can't say that one ordination exam. They've tried 4 times, they still can't pass it. And so that's keeping them out of serving the church for whatever length of time until they can get this accomplished. This provides another pathway that hopefully will expedite our really very well qualified candidates to completion so they are ready to receive a call.
That's really cool.
Yeah, like I am a horrible test taker, and so making it through the ords was a difficult process for me, just simply because I'm a horrible test taker. But if I was able to do it orally or other ways, it would have been much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad, Sean, that you persevere. Some people I have heard say, "Well, it's meant to be difficult," and the spirit of this proposal is not to make it less rigorous.
Right.
It is for a broader way of discerning rather than the exclusively the work that ordination exams currently do well, but we want to open it to a broader group of people that will perhaps master all this content in a way that is that really comparable to what is currently tested with the exam. So.
And I think it's not just like people that are bad at test taking that get stumbled by the ordination exams, but it's people from other cultures, other languages, other contexts when they're trying to translate their own cultural context to this, and the readers are like, this just doesn't make sense because they don't have the understanding of the background that person comes from, because you are completely blind answering the questions, or not blind, who is reading it is blind to who is doing it.
So logistically, let's say so there's several major topic for current ORT exams, right? And then are you saying the portfolio, is it either they choose to go the portfolio route or do the ORT exam route, or can they be a mix of things? Let's say I'm just not really, let's say, I fail exegesis couple times. Can I use the portfolio route? Is there that flexibility, or is it like you have to choose going one way or the other?
So really the way the recommendation is coming to the General Assembly is you have to choose one route or the other because they're a complete package, so to speak. They each cover all of the required content areas.
Yeah.
Now that is not to say that if somebody takes the ordination exam several times and it's just not working for them, that they couldn't switch to the portfolio model, but they would be picking that up and doing the whole package.
Oh, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So in a sense, it's a little bit like starting over with a different method, but that certainly would be possible.
I'm wondering, when you do the survey, would people prefer one way or the other? Was that ever a question on your survey for people going through the ordination path?
It was not, because we didn't put any of the alternatives that we were considering at the time out there. We just wanted to get a good snapshot of people's experience of the current system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The task force, one of the things that I'm very grateful to each and every member of the task force is the hard work they put into listening to people in as many seminaries. The majority of seminaries actually opened their doors very graciously for us to talk to people in the process or recent graduates, and it was very enlightening. And so we then gathered that information, moved into recommendations, and actually submitted a large number of possible recommendations to a very intricate method of quantifying
Yeah.
the top ones. And so there was some data analytics involved, and we're grateful that those 10 are certainly the top 10, so to speak. And Sean can attest to that because he did tremendous work as part of the task force.
Yeah.
But
Have
I think the best part out of I was on the task force for 4 years, but the best part of what we did is you spent a long time listening. We
yeah.
did so many focus groups, so it isn't just this insular group that comes up with ideas, but they spent surveys that one of our groups did talk to almost. I think we talked to every seminary, didn't we? As well,
Almost. Yeah.
almost every seminary with this focus group around that. We talked to mid council leaders. So it was a idea. We got a lot of ideas from different people of what is working and what isn't, as opposed to this insular group of 10 of us coming up with our own ideas.
That's great. And I love what Juan you just said. It's not supposed to be less rigorous, right? It's not supposed to be like somewhat a replacement. If you can't do this, then do this. It really is kind of, help people discern from the very start what path do I wish to go. And I think that's something that need to be lifted because I think for people who does not know um, some of it or does not read the whole report, there may be like, oh, so they're because I've heard this from people saying, oh, apparently they're creating an easier path for ordination.
No.
Right. And so I think that would be something to really lift up and say, no, 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 this is not supposed because you certainly don't want to create this class system where like, oh yeah, they've been through the actual process and then oh this person has not gone through that actual process. So you know what I mean? I mean we're so good at that like place people in different categories, and I would hate for our denomination to do that. And I think if you are able to lift that as like, no, this is really meant to be for this purpose, I think it'll just get a lot more support.
Well, and I
Thank
think if
you.
people read through in our report, we give some criteria and an outline of like content topics in our report. And you can see that there's quite a bit to this.
Hmm.
And one of the things we learned from people with in other professions that use a portfolio model, that it actually can be pretty time intensive to prepare it well.
Yes.
And so that's the other thing is not only is it equally as rigorous, it might even be a bit more time consuming in preparation than the ordination exams. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So
Element and back to your question, Francis, about kind of the more controversial, right, or debatable elements. I mean, and one gift of the task force was the participation of people that are familiar with reform bodies in other parts of the world. I would dare say that there is the United States is very unique in its both its exercise of the examinations in that form, but there are other ways, and so other ways where there is quite a bit of growth, new generations of Christians and congregations that practice ordination in a way that can be considered very rigorous, but is also conducive to the ongoing process of ordination of new elders and deacons, elders, and pastors, and also the commissioning of ruling elders. One thing that I could say, I mean, we're excited about all the proposals, but the one that could be controversial is the ordination of elders for particular mission contexts, and in our PCUSA system, the ordination of elders have been the exclusive prerogative of sessions, and it does certainly make sense. But something that we've seen around the world is, there are elements when you are chartering a church, so to speak. There is an ordination of elders for this newly formed church, and the sense of the task force was that it could presbyteries can prepare congregations towards chartering by ordaining elders in certain missional contexts, so that the congregations that will be chartered or are being chartered will have will find it naturally to lead the church collegially, right? And rather than just one person in charge of the congregation. So we see that as being more in tune with our Presbyterian way of doing things than just waiting until the church is charged and expecting a congregation to completely shift its pattern of leadership. So now presbyteries that might choose to go that route will have the ability to constitutionally be able to do that.
That's great.
So kind of that we're talking about this whole idea of CREs. Can you give us just a context, especially with why CREs are even needed? Like we see a lot of CREs, it's growing a lot lately. But can you give us just kind of a background of what is going on and why are CREs important now as opposed to like ministers in word and sacrament?
Well, so I don't want to assume anyone watching our podcast or listening to our podcast would understand what CRE means or minister of word and sacrament. I mean, those are very specific terms. So maybe let's just kind of explain that for people. Sean, you want to take a shot at that?
Well, commissioned ruling elders are CREs,
Right.
are ruling elders that are elders from a session that get commissioned by a presbytery for a particular service, whether it is to chaplaincy, whether it is to start a new worshiping community or whatever it is, or even serve in a congregation to do the acts of a pastor. And a minister of word and sacrament is just a pastor.
Okay.
One of the strong things you'll see in the report is the emphasis in non-hierarchical ministry, right? Ordination is actually the privilege of the whole church in baptism, and a pastor with a PhD from the most prestigious university in Scotland is no less important, or no more important than a newly baptized child of God. Right? We're all children of the covenant.
Love that.
And so that's our heritage and our theology, and so but humans we construct hierarchies, and so I mean the term deconstruction has been in vogue out there, but probably defiance, right, of in the teachings of Jesus, of who is the greatest, right, is a good word, and so we find that there is a need for us to affirm the ministry of all of God's people. And the commission ruling elders, that, by the way, are one of the proposals is that they be called commission pastors, are playing a growing role in our denomination, and I think it is. I mean, the spirit of the recommendations is that it is confirmed with proper dignity, and also the ability to say have greater participation in the decision-making processes in our presbyteries, and also greater standardization of the expectations of the current form of government allows for a lot of leeway in the training of commission ruling elders or commission pastors. And yet, I think that breadth can also be undermine the ability of for us to have to see them as, say, more more active and crucial members, part of the ministry of the church.
Well, and we with commissioned I'll say commissioned pastors, since that's what we're moving to in our recommendations, is we're seeing an incredible increase in presbyteries utilizing folks feeling called to this ministry. It was one of the things we saw in our mid-council survey. And in fact, we're starting to see some presbyteries with as many or more commissioned pastors than they have installed ministers of word and sacrament. And part of that goes back to what many people have called the current pastor shortage. And one of the things we also learned from conversations with the seminaries is there is a significantly decreasing number of seminary graduates that are choosing or feeling called to go into parish ministry. And so then how do we provide, especially for our smaller congregations that aren't in urban areas, how do we provide pastoral leadership? And so what is really clearly emerging are presbyteries encouraging people and congregations who are ruling elders to utilize their gifts for ministry and consider more preparation so that they could become a commissioned pastor for a local congregation. And so while originally CREs, for example, were intended to be able to pastor congregations other than their own, we are also seeing that a lot of presbyteries are raising up leaders within their own congregation who are then getting trained and being commissioned to their own congregation as the pastoral leader.
That's good. What do you say to, I understand this deconstruction mode, right? Like, and then what would it be a motivation for folks to kind of actually going to seminary, go through those rigorous training? Um, what would you say to that kind of question? Like, do you have concern about there's going to be this trend of less and less people wanting to go to seminary? Um,
I'm going to say, I mean, in today's day and age, especially in the national and international spheres, we see that theology is important. There's a lot of talk about Jesus and about the Bible that is misguided at first, at best, and dishonest at
Mhm.
worst. So, what we believe and how we articulate our faith is supremely important. So there's no question that our commitment in our reform commitment to the word, the centrality of the word, needs to become or remain central, right, to what we do, to our ministry, mission, our witness. And one of the beautiful things I've seen new people wanting to become Presbyterians is precisely because of that emphasis in taking the scriptures seriously, to studying the original languages, going deep with humility, and in order to preach also in the same way, but the confidence that we have in our faith. So I would say there's no way we're gonna we're going to move away from those elements and the important role that that seminaries are playing in promoting deep biblical theological reflection. And yet, we need to recognize that people are the body has different parts, and that we all of us are seeking to continue to grow in our understanding of scriptures and theology. So I would say, by no means, we are people of the word, and we are going to continue to highlight those values and the importance of the right preaching of the word, and the right administration of the sacraments in the word of our ancestors in the faith.
And I would say, to add to that, as we did talk with seminaries, we did not hear any indication that they're moving away from their MDiv program. So for those listening, that's a Master's of Divinity degree that we require for ministers of Word and Sacrament as part of their preparation for ministry. And we also heard, though, that seminaries, because for exactly the reasons Juan just articulated so well, they're also looking at ways of expanding this education to meet today's needs. They're offering more online degree programs. They're offering programs for commissioned ruling elders, commissioned pastors, certification programs in lay ministry. They're offering more and more seminaries are offering a Master's of Arts in Ministry degree. And they're looking at hybrid approaches, online approaches. And so they're wanting to make this education more accessible to people.
That's great. And I think this is a great segue. Then let's talk a little bit more about commissioned pastors, right? What would be the recommendation coming? Because right now, currently, there's not, for example, our minister of word and sacrament will have certain requirements, such as ordination exams, or now, if we pass it, the portfolio. But what is the requirement for commissioned pastors that your task force may be making some kind of recommendation? Because currently there's not anything, right?
Right.
So it could be very different. So I just want to kind of have you talk a little bit about what's the vision from the task force.
So what you will see in our recommendations is very similar to some ministers of Word and Sacrament as part of their educational preparation in seminary. There are certain courses they are required to take. That is just, and much of that's articulated in the Book of Order. Yet up till now, for commissioned ruling elders, those same requirements are not there. It varies presbytery to presbytery. And so what we are recommending, in line with what we do with ministers of Word and Sacrament, is that there become minimum educational standards for commissioned pastors as well. And those courses are outlined in the recommendation, and they would be required across every presbytery. Now, each presbytery will still have the option to determine how that is accomplished, right?
Right.
But the content there, so across the denomination, then we're lifting up, again, the parity between these two different offices which serve our congregations and our denomination, a variety of ministries. They both will have minimum educational requirements that have to be accomplished.
Juan, do you have anything to add to that?
I want to say, I mean, probably you can disclose that we felt that there could be or several people wanted even more specificity, going deeper into the formation of, say, number of hours and of instruction, and into the more academic side of structuring the course, but we felt that that is not in tune. That would not be in tune with our with the breadth of our contexts and we serve, and so I think the recommendation is somewhere between kind of the freedom of the current form of government, but with probably more directives that specify more clearly what is expected of a commission pastor, a commission ruling elder, and so we felt. After many hours of debate, as Sean will attest to, that it's a good proposal that would hopefully meet the approval of the assembly.
Yeah.
In addition, one of the benefits that we see, and this is something we heard when we were listening across the denomination, that one of the benefits we will see if this is approved is that then for example, if a commission ruling elder lives right on the geographic border of another presbytery where they need, say, an hour away, they need a commission ruling elder to serve a congregation, then that can happen because you've got this common baseline now across the denomination.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And so we're hoping this will help put more people into congregations to serve and lead them. The other thing I want to mention that we included in our recommendations is then also that commission pastors, while they are in a commission, they would now have voice and vote in the presbytery. So that again, we're hearing all the voices of those serving our congregations as we work together in our mid-council bodies.
I know for some presbytery, they already do have
They
voice.
do.
Yeah, so for our presbytery, we do give voice. So one last question, because I wonder for the racial ethnic New Orleans community or churches, were you making any sort of recommendation to kind of be attentive to their maybe special needs with language courses and all that? Because those classes will be harder to come by in different, in foreign languages.
That was yeah, certainly one of the elements in our charge. We realized we were pleased to see the efforts and the ongoing creativity of seminaries in providing different avenues for different languages, and we felt that the task force could not necessarily do any better than what seminaries are doing, but
Right.
and the national our national entities, agencies have done tremendously well in terms of the interpretation efforts. So it is a difficult. It is a difficult question, but a very important one. I want to say, I mean, personally, I've had the privilege of visiting with mid-council leaders. They wouldn't call them that in places like Ghana, in places like China, and the mid-council is actually a hub of translation, because it is. Close enough to the ground, so to speak, where the languages are spoken, and yet and not remotely trying to use kind of the lingua franca, so to speak, and so and our need for changing presbyteries and reconfiguring regional strategies, I think the synods and presbyteries can take an increased role in providing those resources for theological education in different languages.
That's great. That's great.
I also think a key part in this whole thing is what we heard from presbyteries was don't take the power from us to make contextual changes.
Mm,
That that
Mm.
don't be over restricted in the on the national level of saying
Yeah.
this is what you can and can't do, that we allow the presbyteries the freedom to be able to make the changes that they need for their contextual. Like
Yeah.
like in San Diego, we have a South Sudanese congregation that speaks Nuer. Like trying to say, hey, everyone needs to take these classes in English. Well, they speak Nuer, and how many people speak Nuer, let alone have a seminary program that teaches a lay leader training
Sure.
program in Nuer. And so we need to
Right.
be able to adapt to find a coach to help that person walk through it.
Yeah. And the reason is that I so appreciate Juan. I know you have such a passion for Hispanic New Asian communities and ministries. So this is not a promo. He does not pay me, but I know he's going. He's actually he's also a professor with one of the seminaries in our area. But I'm sure. But you're getting ready to teach confession in Spanish, aren't you? So,
Yes, yes.
so
August
tell us a
31st.
little bit about that, and I would love for people to hear when that's coming, and we'll provide some link here. Again, he's not paying me, not a promotion, but I think that will
Maybe you'll
be
take us out to lunch.
there. You go. But then I was just like, hey, you never know. If people are listening, it's great to be able to take classes in your mother language, right? So if you speak, if you're, Hispanic, part of the Hispanic ministry, it's a great opportunity. So tell us a little bit.
Thank you, Francis. This it started out of really the necessity of people out of new worshiping communities, and then we telling them, well, you don't know polity, you don't know confessions, you can't be part of us. But I'm thinking, okay, how about we shift in the script and offering that, right? So ATS accredited institution, Western Theological Seminary out of Holland, Michigan. In our Reform family, not related to the BCUSA, but open the doors, and so now we started last year. There were 12 students. This year we are seeing about 14 people sign up for the class of Presbyterian polity and confessions, or confessions and polity. And honestly, one of the things that the seminary asked me is, uh, um, who's going to teach the class, and we looked, and I said, well, I guess I'm not an expert, but here I am. Let's do it. And so I'm learning a lot in the process, and I'm having a lot of fun. And hey, the class is growing, so
That's awesome.
it's a joy to see more students interested. Yeah.
Well, you hear it here. Well, I want to just thank you both so much for your time here. And I know you're both busy people, so making this time available for us, we're just super grateful. We always end with a question because I am a self-proclaimed foodie. Sean just kind of tagged along because there's
I
a
just
lot
tag
of things.
along.
He just can't eat a lot of things, and so he pretend to be the foodie. But I we always end our podcast asking, "What is your favorite food?"
Deborah, what do you, that was
I'm
a
just
tough
going to say anything that's chocolate.
one.
That's awesome.
Great.
That's awesome. Have you tried all the new thing coming out, the Dubai chocolate
Oh,
thing?
yes,
Are you into that?
I am. In fact, just
Awesome.
last week, I had the most amazing Dubai chocolate pistachio cookie.
Oh my.
Just melted in my mouth. Oh,
Sounds great. Well,
Perfect.
I would say, I mean, depending on, I mean, there are seasons, right? And so right now, I am into Japanese food, okay? And
Oh,
so I was just in a conversation with my 16-year-old son that was telling me that he already found a new Japanese place for after church Sunday lunch. So hey, I don't mind that. I like
John
it,
and I would tag along.
Where are
and
we
as
going on
you
Sunday?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, again, thank you both so much. This has been very insightful and informative, and I really hope that this provides more hope for our denomination rather than people looking at it as, well, there's just another thing, right? It's not. Like we're really trying to be adaptive and at a time like this. So again, so grateful for your work for the last 4 years. Yeah, I heard it from Sean from time to time. He just like, "Oh, this is a long time." I'm like, I get it, but thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. So,
Thank you for
thank
inviting
you.
us.